Good morning. Welcome to the moms. I'm so honored that you would come and have your Mother's Day here with us at North Orange. So we want to celebrate you today. I can remember when my wife of 23 years, sounds good, when she became a mom. I remember we were preparing for the pregnancy, preparing for the delivery, and she was pregnant. And that means something else? That's fun too. When it was time, she said, honey, I think it's time. And so I said, oh, okay. I'm gonna go take a quick shower. And so she's having labor pains. I went to take a shower and I said, oh, you wanna go to the hospital now? Let's go to the hospital. And so we went to the hospital and she delivered our daughter. She did a wonderful job. My daughter's 17. She went out with a youth group and 17 now. And I remember that night after the delivery, after I cut the cord and we cleaned the baby, and I don't know if they still do this. I said that like, I don't know, I'm from the 50s. I don't know if they still do this, but you spend the night with the child. They still do that? Okay. And so I had Karis, my daughter, and everybody left. Like it was an ordeal, delivery, nurse, everybody left, and she's crying. And I go, what do we do? Like, what do we do now? Everybody's gone, right? And so we have these nurse call buttons, right? So I hit the button, and I go, this one thing's broken. Like, she just keeps crying, right? What do we do? And the nurse looked at me like I was an alien and goes, okay, why don't you try these things, right? All of that to say this. Some of you moms know how to soothe a crying baby. Some of you moms know how to calm down a toddler's tantrum. Some of you moms know how to communicate with a teen who is going through the angst. Like, you've been through it. But I thought it'd be fun to go through some of these lists, and I'm gonna just do it for a baby. And so I looked online, ways to soothe a crying baby. So when I say that, if you guys were in the hospital with us, you would have said, just do this, right? Right? To help the baby. What would you have said? Just do what? Yell them out. Okay, all right, change diaper. So for us, and anytime a parent is saying, hey, what do I do? My kid, I go, hey, take him for a car ride, right? Take him for a car ride. My children's lullaby was driving up and down the highway in San Jose, California, all right? Like 2 or 3 in the morning, just go to sleep. But I got this list, so here we go. Number 1, make sure baby has a clean diaper. I think I heard that from here. Rock or walk with the baby. Anybody have that? Sing or talk to your baby. Offer the baby a pacifier. Take the baby for a ride in a stroller. Hold baby close to you for warmth or pat the baby's back. Place your baby across your lap and rub the baby's back. Put them in a swing. Anyone have a swing for their children growing up, or the car ride? Play music. So those are all from this website on how to soothe a crying baby, about 13 steps. I also looked this up. The perfect way, so that was to soothe a crying baby, the perfect way to change a diaper. You guys have that down too? All right, I looked this up on the internet. Some of you guys are gonna need to know this. You guys wanna take notes, okay? Number 1, take off the dirty diaper. I'm serious, this is on here. Number 2, clean the baby's soiled skin with a wipe or something. Number 3, put on the clean diaper. And that's it, that's the total list, I swear. I looked it up and that was the total list. So that should be a no-brainer, but hey, if you needed that, you might need that. So like I said, you moms have mastered some of these arts. You know your children, you can help with other children. And not just babies, I'm talking about toddlers. I'm talking about kids, tweens, teens, you know. Some young adults now, you even know. But moms, can I ask you, do you know the secret to answered prayers? Moms, do you know the secret, not to changing diapers, but to answered prayers? To see that, I want to invite us to see a mom's prayer in 1 Samuel chapter 1. 1 Samuel chapter 1 is in the Old Testament. It's the book after Ruth. Feel free to use your table of contents. 1 Samuel chapter 1, and we'll see the prayer of a mom. In 1 Samuel 1, we're introduced to a family. There was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah. And he gives you a little bit more of his description. And here's the family. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And so we're introduced to a family. This man named Elkanah. And he's got 2 wives. What's the problem there? Probably can't handle one, right? But he's got 2. And one of his wives has children, correct? Peninnah. In this society, probably they'd call it like a sister wife or something, right? And Hannah, the other wife, is infertile. She's not able to have children. Do you think that causes tension in the home? All right. And so Hannah is living in these conditions. And we're going to focus on Hannah for this scripture. Know this, children were a blessing in ancient Hebrew culture. I believe they're a blessing today. I do. But I don't think we understand quite how much of a blessing they are in our culture. The first was that it reminded the people of the covenant with Abraham and Sarah that we just studied in Genesis, right? The children were a reminder of the covenant. Another way children are a blessing is that most of the businesses in the ancient world were family businesses. So you guys who go off and pursue your own thing, man, I'm gonna be a poet, I'm gonna be a surfer, whatever you did, right? You didn't do that in the ancient world. You know why? If your parents did agriculture, what did you do? Agriculture. Jesus' stepdad, Joseph, worked in stonemasonry. So what did Jesus do? He worked in stonemasonry, all right? That is, you did the family business. Now, if you had more children, how good could your business be? All right? So that was a big thing as well. More children, better, you could survive more. The other thing is that the namesake could go on with children, right? Your name would carry on with your lineage. So there was a lot of reasons why children were important in the ancient world. I believe they're still important. So this would have been a common theme, though the psalm itself had not been written yet. Psalm 127, 3-5. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. So if you had a lot of children, it was good. And Hannah cannot give her husband any. So there's shame. She lives in this shame every day. She lives in a home with a counterpart who has children. And the counterpart is just a reminder of her inadequacy every day. It's like if there was someone here who wanted to be a mom but was experiencing infertility, and you worked in a preschool or a kindergarten or with children, and you're just reminded every day that you can't have children. That's what she's feeling. Let's learn a little bit more about this family in verse 3. Now the man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and sacrifice the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and daughters. So he's sacrificing, and as a husband, he's doing something good. He is feeding the family. And so he feeds the family of Peninnah who has children. But to Hannah, verse 5, he gave a double portion because he loved her. And so we see that there are wives and there's some favoritism being shown here. And Hannah was his favorite, and he gives a double portion of meat to her. He wants to help her. He wants to cheer her up. If your wife is having a bad day at work, maybe things aren't going the way they're supposed to, what would you buy them, husbands? What would you get them? Maybe some flowers? Maybe some jewelry, right? You guys ever think of beef jerky? Maybe some prime rib, right? And so he says here, I'm going to give you tons of meat to cheer you up. He's trying, all right? He's trying. And in 1 Samuel 1:5, we see here that Hannah's womb was closed by the Lord. So it's not just that she's infertile. There's this description here. Remember Genesis 20, which we read this year. Genesis 20 and 18. The Lord closed the wombs of those in the house of Abimelech because of Sarah. Like it was a judgment. And so they would have known that story, Hannah and Peninnah and Elkanah. So she's got to be thinking like, did I do something? Is God judging me with this closed womb? Verse 6, and her rival, which we know as Peninnah, used to provoke her grievously to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. And so we learn that not only does she have to share a home and a husband with this other lady, that the other lady's kind of awful, that she mocks her. What do you think that was like? Hey, don't worry about it. This week, my kids will get the dishes. Next week, why don't your kids get, oh. Hey, it's time for conjugal time with our husband. Can I have your time? Because nothing happens when you go in there with him. Think about just the awfulness that this lady had to live through. Verse 7, so when it went on year by year, she is constantly living under torment with this woman. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore, Hannah wept and would not eat. I mean, there's words for that. There's torment, there's bullying, but have you guys ever grieved so much that you couldn't eat? I'm not talking about the newest fad diet, but I'm talking about like you're emotionally exhausted, you're somber, you're grieving, and I'm not hungry. You guys ever been there? Yeah, that's where she is. And I want to put you in her story because what Hannah's feeling here is inadequate. And she's being reminded of it with this awful woman who lives in their home. Reminded of her inadequacy. And here's the thing, moms. Hannah's not the only one who's being reminded of her inadequacy. I believe that the world we live in puts pressure on you as moms, as women, and says, hey, you're not living up to the expectations. Do you ever feel pressured? Maybe it's not in your home, but it's our society. How about this? The house. How big's your house? Do each of your kids get a bedroom? Any kids sharing rooms? Okay, so you got the house with the great add-ons and then the great neighborhood and the great school district, but what's the state of your house? Is it clean? Is everything put away? Is the laundry put away or the dishes put away? You guys ever feel the pressure as moms? What about this? What vehicle do you have? Do you have the latest and greatest? We live in Orange County, the birthplace of the soccer mom, right? You guys have to have the right vehicle for your kids, right? And you feel the pressure. Do I have the luxury SUV? Do I have the luxury van? You know, the one that magically keeps your kids from fighting like it's witchcraft? You feel the pressure from outside? What about this? How's your physique? I mean, you just gave birth to 5 kids. Did you bounce back? Did you lose the baby weight? You feel the pressure from society, right? And even though you're the busiest person on the face of this earth, have you gone to your fitness classes, your Pilates and all that stuff? What about this? Speaking of kids, do you have the perfect kids? Are they well behaved? Do they listen the first time? There's laughing going on. Or what about this? Are you like Hannah? Are you praying because you're infertile and you don't have kids? And yet you feel all these pressures from the outside that you've got to be this perfect mom. What about this? Do you have the perfect marriage? Like you and your husband never argue. You never fight. You never have tough seasons. Your husband is also fit, right? He takes the garbage out. He does the dishes. He works on the car and the house at the same time. He's got 2 hands. Trophy husband. Or what about this? Pressures from the outside. Do you have the perfect spiritual walk? Did you do your quiet time this morning, moms? Well, that's why I'm here, Pastor. Do it for me. Do you only think pure thoughts? Do you control your tongue when frustrated so you don't swear or gossip? Never you, mom. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt shame and pressure by not living up to the standards that people have put on you as a mom? Now you know what Hannah's feeling in her own home from this co-wife. She feels inadequate as a mom. She can't have children. She feels inadequate as a wife. I can't provide my husband with a child. She feels inadequate as a woman. And Elkanah's a good husband. He wants to cheer her up. Babe, here, have 2 steaks instead of 1. So he gives her another set of uplifting words. Here's Elkanah. Babe, cheer up. And he says this, Hannah, why do you weep? Why are you crying? And why not eat? Why are you so sad? Is it good to check in on your wife when she's sad? The answer to that's yes, gentlemen. Is it good to check in on your wife when she's sad? Yes. Someone said, run. He goes, why are you sad? Eat. And then he goes, come on, think about it. Am I not worth more to you than 10 sons? Look what you got, babe. You got the beefcake. Am I not more valuable than a child? Me and Stephen put together this Mother's Day card. If your wife is feeling down, feel better soon, hun. Aren't I more valuable than 10 sons? Happy Mother's Day. By the way, don't ask a question you don't want an answer to, okay? Because she's gonna answer it. She cries more, right? She cries even more. Like the answer is no, you're not. And she just bawls, right? Why a child? Why does Hannah think a child will solve everything? Let's think about it practically. It solves her problems with her bully, right? If Peninnah, the other wife, is mocking her because she doesn't have children, she has a child, can she be mocked? Think about it. If you have a bully and the bully says you have no friends, and you start making a ton of friends, can the bully mock you? Not really, right? It kind of solves everything, but there's got to be more to that. But Hannah's living under these terrible conditions. Some of you moms have lived under terrible conditions. Nothing is going the way you planned it. Nothing is going the way you wanted it. You feel inadequate. What do you do in that situation? Hannah shows us in this next place. When that comes up, what do? You pray. You pray. Verse 9. After they'd eaten and drunk, remember, Hannah's not eating. She's not choosing to fast. She's grieving. Eli the priest was sitting at the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. Let me just tell you a little bit about what's happening here. This is the temple. This is worship. For us, contemporary, because we need to understand the story, he would have been the pastor, right? And the temple would have been the church, okay? And so he's sitting there. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. She goes into the church and she prays and she weeps. Have you guys ever wept in your prayers? I'm talking about a prayer that's so deep from the bottom of a broken heart that tears are coming down your face and they're meeting with snot, and you got like snot tears that are meeting somewhere on your chin because this is just an earnest prayer. Anybody ever done that? And that's how she's praying in the church. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, this is her prayer, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. And if she makes a vow, no razor shall touch his head. He'll be under the Nazirite vow. Let me ask you a question. Do you think she's prayed for a son before? Of course she has. Of course she has. She went up every year and prayed in that temple. But this one's a little different. She changes her strategy here because she includes a vow. She includes a negotiation. Have you ever, in your absolute need to have an answered prayer, negotiated with the living God? You guys better be honest with me today, right? If you do this, I swear, I'm not cussing anymore. If you answer this prayer, I swear, I'm in church every Sunday. If you do this, I swear, I'm gonna tithe. I swear, I'll be a small group. I swear. Anybody ever negotiated with the living God? You need to know that Martin Luther, the founder of the Protestant faith, was not walking with God when he was caught in a lightning storm. And in the lightning storm, he thought, I'm gonna die. This is it. And so what did he do? He called out to the living God and said, God, if I survive this, if you will help me survive this lightning storm, thunder crashing everywhere, he says, I'll become a priest. And he did. And he did. And that's history for us. Has anyone here ever negotiated with the living God? We've all done it. And here Hannah does it. Verse 12, as she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. So she's praying in the church, and the pastor's looking at her. And he's like, there's something wrong with this woman, right? Hannah was speaking in her heart. Only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard. She's not praying out loud, so I don't know what she's praying. She's like so distraught, her lips are moving, and she's praying, and she's crying. But to him, it's weird. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So he says this, how long are you going to be drunk? Put your wine away from you. He says, hey, it's 9 a.m. Are you drunk? Get out of here, right? I wish that's the first time I've had to say that, okay? All right? He thinks she's praying so earnestly, so hard, she's out of breath. Maybe she's just praying from the bottom of a broken heart and not speaking. And he goes, this lady's drunk. Have you ever prayed in such a radical way that people just didn't understand it? Like people didn't know what was going on. But Hannah answered her, no, my Lord, I'm a woman in troubled spirit. No, pastor, I'm troubled. I've drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I've been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I've been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation. I feel helpless, and I'm in the house of the living God, calling out to him. I'm not drunk. I'm broken. Is that okay? Is the church a place for the broken women of God to come and pray? Eli answered, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you've made to him. And she said, let your servant find favor in your eyes. Suddenly she smiles, and then the woman went away and ate, and her face was no longer sad. So she is broken. She is crying. She's saying, I am helpless. I'm distraught. And then Eli, who speaks for the living God to her at the moment, he says, I understand, daughter of God, may God hear your prayer. And when Eli says it, it's like he's speaking for the Lord himself, because Eli represents the Lord. And what's that able to do for her? It cheers her up. God heard my prayer, and she went home and what? She ate. She ate the food, and she's no longer sad. He blessed her. Eli blessed her, and blessing her convinces her that God heard her cries. God heard her prayers. Verse 19, then they rose early in the morning, worshiped before the Lord, and they went back to the house at Ramah, and Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. For those of you who don't know what that means, that's Old Testament language for mommy daddy time, okay? Let's try this again, hon. God answered our prayers, okay? And God answered. And in due time, Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel, for I've asked for him from the Lord. She goes home from brokenness in the temple. She eats, she tries for a baby, and wouldn't you know it, she gets pregnant. Because God opened her womb. You know why? Because heartfelt prayer is powerful. Heartfelt prayer is powerful. When's the last time you prayed earnestly? Prayed so much that you were crying? Like, are you gonna let the pressures of life overtake you? Are you gonna let the pressures of motherhood overtake you? All the things that they expect from, there's two things you could do. You could do what Eli thought she did, turn to the bottle, right? Turn to a vice. It's not gonna help you, right? Or you could turn to the living God, what Hannah did. And how? How did Hannah open the skies of heaven to have her prayers answered? We gotta go back to the vow. It's found here in the vow in verse 11. O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant, remember me and not forget your servant, but will give your servant a son. I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. Let me ask you a question. Have you guys ever prayed for something you needed from the Lord? A house, a car, a paycheck to come through? When you prayed for that, Did you go, hey, God, give me a car. I'm walking to work every day. And when you give me the car, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give them back to you. What's wrong with that? You're still walking to work, correct? I need a house. We need a place to live. When you give me the house, I'll give the house away. What's wrong with that? You still need a house, correct? You still need the paycheck to come through. You still need the job. So there's something different in here. She says, give me a son and I'll give the son back to you. Is that weird? Let me tell you, she doesn't want the son anymore. Do you know what she wants? She wants God. She wants God. You don't ask for something and then say, when you give it to me, I'll give it back. So she says here, I don't want the son anymore just for the reasons of all these other pressures. I want the son now so that I know that you're hearing my prayer. And she wanted the blesser, who is God, more than the blessing. So how do you open the skies of heaven to have a prayer answered when you want God more than his blessing? When you want God more than his blessing? She wanted God. Are you despondent? Are you face down in the temple praying to God? Do you need a miracle? Do you need that job? Do you earnestly want that child? Do you want God more? Hannah wanted God more than she wanted a child, and she showed it. She said, you give me the child, I'll give him right back to you. I just want you, God. And when she acknowledged this, God opened her womb. Now, I will say this isn't a magic spell, okay? There are some things that you will pray, and God, because he's a sovereign God, out of his own decision is going to choose not to answer them, okay? Because he's got different plans for you, so you need to know that. But if it's in God's plans, the way to answer a prayer is this: desire God more. Desire God more than the thing you want. Because heartfelt prayer is powerful. 21, the man Elkanah and all his house went up to the offer to the Lord yearly and sacrifice, pay his vow. But Hannah didn't go up, for she said to her husband, as soon as the child is weaned, I'll bring him so that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and dwell there forever. Verse 26, and she said, oh my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am a woman who is standing here in your presence praying to the Lord. For this child I have prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition that I made to him. Therefore, I've lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord. So she has Samuel, and she lives her life knowing that God hasn't forsaken her. God opened my womb. And when he did that, it was like a blessed confirmation that I am not alone. Because here's the other truth: God is with you. Women, are you overwhelmed? Moms, are you overwhelmed? The pressures of society, the pressures of being a mom and an employee and a cousin and a sister and a daughter and a grandmother, and all those things are just too, there's not enough hours in a day. And I'm disappointing somebody. What do I do? Remember this: God is with you, daughter of God. When you're under trials, when it's all coming down on you, pray and remember that God is with you. Jesus said in Matthew 28, behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. That was true for the disciples, and it's true for you. Don't forget you're not alone. I want to invite the band out now. We're going to do things differently this week. We're going to do a song. And in this song, we're going to do communion. And in this communion, I want you to take it at your own pace, okay? The bread is the body of Christ broken for you. The juice represents the blood of Christ that was shed for you. Reflect on the goodness of Jesus. Take it at your own time and your own pace. But I believe there are some women today who need to pray like Hannah prayed. If you're a guy here, we can pray with you too. It doesn't matter, okay? But my prayer is that North Orange would be a place of honesty and vulnerability where we can come and call out to the living God in our vexation, in our brokenness, and people go, there's something wrong with them, they're drunk. And no, I'm calling out to God. Like, I need God more than anything else, and I believe that there are moms in this building today and online who need prayer. Some of you are grieved. Some of you are grieved your relationship with your children didn't turn out the way you'd hoped, and they're adults now. Some of you are grieved because on this day you remember your mother who's passed away. She's gone, or maybe you're cut off and it didn't go the way you wanted it to, and so this is a day of much pain for you. Some of you moms are dealing with infertility. You've lost children, or you've been praying for children. And you're like, Hannah, I just want to know that God is there, and you need prayer. Some of you moms, maybe in your youth, before you came to the faith, you were pregnant and you aborted the baby. And you walk around with that shame and that guilt. And you need to remember what the Lord does for those who repent and forgiveness. There are moms who are carrying the weight of the world who need to call out to the living God today. So Jim's going to be in that corner. I'll be in this corner. We'll pray for you. Feel free to come to communion at your own time. But let's crack the sky. Let's talk to the living God together during this song.